Okay, so we're going to get started making some assets. Alright, now one thing I should point out is usually I put this stuff on a layer and usually I toggle it R. Now the problem with Maya 2011 sometimes is it's really finicky about layers. It sucks with layers. I don't know what it is. Sure, they can be toggle visible, but for some freaking reason it doesn't allow you to uh, turn it into a reference or template in some cases. Okay, so that's just going to be my way of saying, man, fix that, would you? Because that's ridiculous. Which makes this a little bit of a fun task because of that. My little revenge is to get to bust it out. Okay, so what we're going to do is start building some assets. Okay, now think of this. You're going to Lowe's or your home improvement store and you're buying things. What do you buy? You buy some molding. You buy some uh, columns. You buy some, you know, think of things that you'd use to finish off a room. And if you've done no construction in your life, well, you're gonna eventually. But think of when you populate this thing with assets, you're just going to the home improvement store and buying some stuff to make the level look nice. Okay? What are you required to do? What do you need? And we're going to use the theme for this room medieval, or maybe um, an older style where it has big, huge molding on the floor, and there's columns, and there's just some things laying precariously around to make it look old. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make some molding, and I'll kind of walk you through what happens at each stage as we're developing these assets. Okay, so I'm just going like that, and I'm going to insert some edge loops here, here, and here. Then let's play around with those edge loops, and we'll go into edges, pull this one back a little bit. And that really cool molding, the kind that makes it so, there's some kind of, oops, I wonder what happened there. Huh. Yeah, they got the gothic crown molding that, kind of has a couple bumps in it. That's the kind of stuff we're going to do. And we got to keep this low poly. Remember, a lot of this stuff is texture. So, we could put a whole lot of detail in here, but really, you're wasting a lot of time. It's going to be texturized later on as a solid chunk. So, don't get too hung up on detail. Certainly, detail is important, but not to the point where it's just going overboard with things. Okay, now there is a bevel. Okay, and here's how bevel works. Bevel's a cool little trick. It just adds edge loops. So if I go like this and go to the square box, I can put 3 segments in here and hit apply, and the mesh explodes. Okay. And the reason it exploded is because of the fact that these things are set. So let's not use bevel because it's too hard to calculate. And just insert some edge loops here and here. That way I can tuck this one in. There we go. So now we have a piece of molding. Okay, now what's that look like from here? Not much. Okay, but it does give me the ability to start building some stuff off this wall. I'm also going to make this a little bit thicker and over exaggerate it quite a bit. And I see what it is. It's my world scale is so big that I'm unable to highlight vertices in the side view. So I'm going to use the top view to expand stuff. There we go. All right, so that's an asset right there, that little piece of molding. Now what happens is you take and you texturize that piece. We'll pretend we're going to texturize it, and then what happens is you can bring it back and use it over and over again within your level. Okay? So we're going to skip that phase. And we're going to go to the phase of I already have it texturized. Also keep in mind that a lot of times, especially in game engines, you don't have the ability to mess around with the vertices as much. You're playing more around with scale by scaling it, assets this way, and you're not too worried about things going outside the world that you don't see. You're more worried about how things line up and how good they look with the texture. Okay? So things like this hanging outside your wall isn't really a big deal. That hangs out in world space. Now, there are certain things that you can't have that, and those are assets like rigid bodies that are affected by gravity or dynamics. Anytime you have something like that hanging out in world space, that's probably a bad thing. So, because if you knocked it over, it would actually fall into oblivion. Okay, let's duplicate this piece. As I said, you're just going to Lowe's and you're buying some molding at this point, and you're just taking this and adding it to the scene. And for this one, I could take and negatively scale it, I think in Z, and it would flip it around. And I'm going to go in my top view and scale that. Here's another little trick. DV, dog Victor, and when you scale it, it scales this way, and you can keep it right up against the wall. Again, those are things that you can't do inside the engine though, but since we're mocking this up and playing with the idea of just using Maya to create lesson or video games, I'm going to let you use any tool available to you. Okay? So this is just a mock-up. Really wish I could template that out using a layer, because if you can't, you gotta keep zooming in. Alright, so there's an example right there of an asset that got duplicated over and over again, and now I have this. It's a small step. Meet me in the next video where we add some more.